Derick Giwner joined by Bergman to discuss Hambletonian Day at the Meadowlands. That's on August 3rd with a noon post time. Plenty of great wagering opportunities with guaranteed wagers from the starter card till the end of the card. And we have free PPs for the whole card if you check out the QR code. There's also a 7% rebate via DRF bets. But we're going to jump right into the action and look at race number 12, which is the $1,050,000 Hambletonian. Jay, what do we do here? Carl looks like a heavy favorite right now.
I think he is a heavy favorite. I think we look to see him win the race. I mean, it's been a long time coming. We waited this long, but Carl has shown everything that you would expect of a Hambletonian winner. The only thing missing from his resume right now is his Hambletonian trophy, and I think on Saturday, maybe sometime around 5 o'clock, they'll see him in the winner's circle.
Well, why don't we take a look at the elimination round victory from Carl? To me, he put in the best effort I saw of any of the elimination, entrants. He tucked for, early on in the race. And then after that, in this replay, he's going to come first over and just win really easily.
Well, I mean, there's two things to look at there. Number one, the horse he's going to go by has been used rather hard up until this point. So it wasn't as if he was beating a horse that was his match in the stretch. But at the same time, there really seems to be no effort on the part of the horse. And while other horses appear to be closing on him, they're really not. They're not gaining any significant ground. And I think if he had been urged, he could have won by 5 instead of 1.
No doubt about it. To me, it looked like they could have just went around again, and he would have ended up being the winner there. Second choice in this field is 5-2, and that's TCI. We're going to take a look at the way TCI won, and that was completely different, where he was on the lead basically the entire race and kind of cruised home after the soft fractions, but just held on as Private Access came at him.
I don't know what to make of the just held on part. I mean, I think it was a sprint, and anytime there's a sprint for a quarter of a mile at the Meadowlands, there's always the chance that it gets close at the wire, regardless of which one wins. But I thought the fact that he won was encouraging because it was clearly his best performance of the year, and there's been some lackluster efforts before. So a lot more reason to have high hopes for TCI on Saturday.
Do we take anything away from the fact that he was able to get away with a 56-1 and a 124 3/4?
I think we have to accept that as just what business is eliminations versus finals. Like I said, I think the overall impact that it was a much better improved effort by him. We've been asking this question since last year. Has Carl passed them by, and has he passed them by a neck, a nose, or 5 lanes? I mean, from visually, Carl looks to be the fitter horse and the faster horse.
When I look at this race, I'm trying to find that, looking at the pace scenario, basically. And I see a lot of horses that basically aren't going to want to go to the lead here. I mean, I think Private Access is going to lead, but other than that, which horse do you feel strongly about, from the outside of this gate that's going to want to lead?
I think, there's two things in my mind. The one thing that comes back is 10 years ago, and Giwner, the favorite with Father Patrick to win the Hambletonian from the 10 hole, and him getting the horse geared up at the start, trying to overcome the 10 hole, and the horse making a break. I think Carl's best bet on Saturday is for Giwner to go to the front. I mean, and I don't think, when I say go to the front, I mean go to the front, be on the starting gate, and not let anybody go. Intimidate. Giwner intimidates people even no matter where he draws. But from the inside, with the best horse, I don't think he wants to get cute. And I think there's the other thing that works to his advantage from the inside is that there are horses on the inside that also look like they probably can't stay with him in the first quarter, such as Highland Kismet.
Sitting at 4-1 on the morning line is Sig Sauer, Jay. And my only problem here is, how does this horse get into the race?
I think it's going to be difficult. Last week, he got a charity tuck on the first turn. It was Andy McCarthy leaving and Todd McCarthy letting him in front of him, and that got him away 5th from the 8 hole without really using the horse that hard. I think for $1,050,000 in the final, I don't think it's going to be that easy to find a hole leaving. So it's either you leave for the front or you decide you're going to be sitting in the back. And I think, unfortunately, for some of these horses, they're going to have to accept the medicine, painful as it might be.
I actually spoke to trainer Noel Daly about the horse on Wednesday. He was saying that he thinks the horse does have some speed. They just haven't had the opportunity to use it yet, or haven't tried to use it yet. He was unsure whether he was going to pull the shoes on the horse. I get the impression he was up in the air, though. He said the horse was training great. Another horse I think is interesting is Private Access, only for the fact that, he raced really well last week, just missed, and that was only his first start since the beginning of July.
Well, I think trainer Luke Blay has a history, and a rather good history, of prepping his horses for this, particular week, or the 2 weeks, last weekend in July and first weekend in August. And I think that historically it works well for him. And obviously, in the same sense, James McDonald seems rather fearless out there in big money races. He certainly was in the Meadowlands Pace, making a bold move with Legendary Hanover, winning that race. So, the fear factor out of the way, the fact that there really are no other options. I mean, I kind of was leaning that Amazing Catch from the 10 hole, might push off early also, just, because what else is he going to do if he doesn't try to leave the gate? I mean, it's, from the outside, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But like I said, I think one of the concerns, at least for the outside leavers, is, is there going to be a hole where Highland Kismet is? He's starting from post 3, and he's really not shown any kind of fleet foot at the start of any of his races, even though he's a magnificent horse, but just one that you sort of have to be careful with. So, I mean, I kind of see guys looking for that hole. Will it be one horse, can one horse fit in? Can 2 horses fit in? Or let's just say the other side, will the mid-pack horses leave and take those spots and make it harder for the outside? I mean, I'm kind of thinking that the outsides are in trouble, because a horse like Security Protected from the 5 hole, I think Tim Tetrick looks for that hole behind Carl faster than anybody. I mean, I think he's definitely going to want to be sitting there. And, what will Dave Miller and TCI do?
Yeah, I'm really not sure Security Protect is going to leave this week. I think he's tried the last couple of times, and it really hasn't worked out. I think I saw a comment somewhere from Tim Tetrick that made it seem like he might just sit and kind of wait, Jay.
Well, comments beside, I'm not so sure that you can believe almost anything a driver says before the race, because things do change at the start. But like I said, the coveted position in this race, when you're going for $1 million, I want to be sitting second or third behind Carl, at all costs. If I can find that trip somehow, if I'm on the gate, I look to the left of me and I say, hey, and Tim did say to me he wants to make left turns. I think that first left turn going into the first turn might be the most important left he could make, if it happens to be a spot second or third behind Carl.
Well, why don't we take a look at our picks for the Hambletonian before we move on to the Oaks? And in this race, I'm going with Carl here. To me, this looks like a race where Yannick just lets the horse trot out at his own speed, makes one move to the front, and then the race is over. I think Private Access can fire out, maybe get a good seat and sitting nice close up to Carl. And I'm also using TCI on my ticket. And Jay, you also went with Carl.
I went with Carl, like I said, obvious reasons. I mean, he did have the one hiccup along the way, but I mean, you can't excuse it now that you go in retrospect. He was used pretty hard that day. And, I think, Yannick learned the lesson. Whether the horse needed a lesson or not, I don't really know. But Yannick learned the lesson, and he certainly did make the same mistake twice. And, I know he might be a little reluctant to blast off, but I kind of think there's just not enough quickness out of the gate. If Aki had a horse in there that might, that might be, on the gate that could roll, maybe he'd be a little more concerned. But I don't know that there's any horse in the race that really has breathtaking early speed. And I see Carl get in the front. I still have not lost faith in Highland Kismet as far as talent is concerned. That's why I used him on my ticket second, because he has closed every week and he's been conservatively handled for sure. The owners in their mid to late 80s may never see another horse in the Hambletonian again. I kind of wonder whether, this is like all or nothing for Highland Kismet as opposed to what we've seen of him before.
Okay, let's move on to the Oaks. $525,000 on the line. It's race number 14 on the card. Obviously, we have a full field of 10. And you know what? While there'll be a heavy favorite in the Hambletonian, this Oaks, I mean, it's a wide open contest, Jay.
Without question. I think one of those things is that, there's a horse that's looking for her 11th straight victory, yet no one seems to be saying she's unbeatable. And that's for good reason, because, she's really been off the radar, off the big races, has won everywhere she's been. But earlier in the year, she's in non-winners of 2. And now she's favored from the rail in the Hambletonian Oaks. So it's been a rather leap, a big leap for Alyssa Hanover, but certainly nothing suggests that she's alone in this race. And not only the elimination winners, but some of the non-elimination winners I feel have as much talent, maybe even more.
But why don't we take a look at the limbs? We're going to start with the first one where Allegiant went right to the front here and just kind of cruises home on the lead. There's nowhere near her, Jay.
Unfortunately, there were people playing it very safe in this race, and I give credit to Scott Zeron for stealing it. That just getting away really quick, but he did leave the gate very hard with the Legion. The Legion did show really, really quick speed off the gate, so that's going to hold up well in the final.
Our second elimination is Elisa Hanover winning, and to me, she really showed something here. I don't know if I was sold on her originally, but when By Around comes at her with everything she has, and she kind of just shrugs her off and then pulls clear, that's impressive.
Dave Miller has an unbelievable knack for certain kind of trotters. I've seen it over the years. He just seems to give them confidence. Just seems to be real cool in the bike. He was very, very cool. Like you said, it looked like By Around was going by until it looked like By Around wasn't going by. And Miller seems very, very confident with this filly, and for good reason. Obviously, he sat behind her, he knows her, and now he knows she's getting better.
One of the horses we saw in there finishing third was Warrior Michelle, who showed nice improvement coming back. I guess she's about 2 to 3 weeks removed from throat surgery. It seems like she's finally coming into her own.
I thought that was very, very encouraging. I mean, listen, when I saw her in the entry box following her first two races this year, I was like, what's she even doing here? I mean, she just looked like she was nothing like herself last year. I mean, it's the Breeders' Crown winner that was off the board and distance sort of in the first two stakes races, but there was a big, big improvement there, and this is a stable that looks to win races like this.
Of the three elimination winners, I think the next one we're going to look at, the third elimination, Armelita, might be kind of overlooked in the final here. I don't think she's getting the respect of maybe some of the others.
I think she's been better in the last few weeks, and the respect part, I don't know if it's from her last few weeks. I think it's like we're happy that she's not breaking at the start, and she's shown the ability. She has the speed. The question really with her is, how's she going to match up when it's a field of 10 and all of them are solid. I think she's good on certain situations. I'm not so sure that'll translate into the big race.
What I think is most interesting about this race, as opposed to the Hambletonian, which I don't think it has a ton of pace, I think this race has loads of pace. I mean, Allegiant is usually on the lead. Miss Isla leaves every single week, and she's going to be gunning. I think Drawn Impression's probably going to leave. French Champagne could leave. There's a lot of potential early speed.
You left one out, and my feeling is that Date Night Hanover is going right to the front here. Dexter Dunn had two horses to choose from, and on paper and morning line wise, it would look like French Champagne was a no-brainer between those two. But I think Date Night Hanover, after a win in this wide filly, I think they took a few weeks off and just said, let's get her into the final. I mean, you talked to Marcus Melander before the eliminations, and his goal was just, let me get in the final and let's see what happens when I get there. Last year, it worked out for him from the 10 hole with Heaven Hanover. Obviously, you might say 9 is an improvement over 10, but, I think they'd rather have a trip where she's not coming from dead last like she's been coming from. And like I said, I don't see any danger in outside horses leaving here, because regardless of who's inside, none of them can go all out to be on the lead. I mean, to me, what you said in advance is probably 100% correct. There could be a lot of lead changes in this one.
Yeah, 100%. I actually asked Marcus Melander, changes, what's going on between the Zweig and here. Said the last time she didn't have shoes was in the Zweig, and he's planning right now to pull the shoes for the Oaks. So that's kind of interesting. He also said he was going to add some earplugs to the filly going into the final. I mean, I look at this race a lot of different ways, and to me, it always came down to lots of early speed, lots of lead changes. I want a horse that's coming from off the pace, and we're going to throw our picks up on the screen, and you're going to see that I went with By Around here. I mean, I really feel like she's come along nicely. Last week, you can't really hold against her. She's certainly a closer in this field. She has one of the quickest turns of speed, as far as I'm concerned, of these fillies in this race. I think Noel Daly, as he said, is probably going to pull the shoes for this race, which means she's going to come home even faster, as far as I'm concerned. He thinks it's worth a second for her. I don't know if he's right or not, but I believe that one of the things that the only concern I have with this filly is that Noel's been telling me that, she's been battling a high white blood cell count for a while. And, he's not sure if he's going to, she's going to be 100%. Maybe she'll be 95%. Is 95% good enough to win in a race where, the talent is so close? That's the only concern I have, but that's the way I went. At least the Hanover really showed me something. I used her. I also using Date Night Hanover, who I wouldn't be surprised if she leave, as you said. And I thought she was perhaps the best filly going into the Oaks. And for me, not to use her at a big price would be foolish.
Well, I'm going a different direction, and I'm going back to last year's Breeders' Crown where Warwick Michelle was the winner, and by around, she had that trip you're suggesting she needs in the Hambletonian Oaks final, and she didn't convert on it last year with a rather long stretch of Hoosier Park to use. So I'm a little concerned about by around being a hair short on courage, not a hair short on speed, not a hair short on talent, but maybe on courage. And Warwick Michelle showed that intense courage, bravery, and what I believe after last week's performance, you have a driver questioning how good his horse is to a driver now saying, she's pretty good, she's back to where she was, I could drive her a little bit more aggressively. And that's what I'm looking for. I think she'll be a reasonably good price, and she did have trot finishing. I mean, it was an easy trip, it was an inside trip. She could have pulled, but she decided to sit in, and By Around pulled instead. So By Around did more of the work than Warwick Michelle. I'll give her that. But it's nice to see Warwick Michelle turning it around and then, getting the gift of a good post, even of the third place finish. So I'm going to go with Warwick Michelle. Like I said, Alyssa Hanover, I've done nothing wrong, but I'm kind of concerned the rail in a competitive race might be a disadvantage, not an advantage for Dave Miller. So that's what worries me there. And certainly By Around, she figures to be on the board.
Well, it should be an exciting Hambletonian Oaks as well as the Hambletonian. Remember, it's a 12 noon post time. We'll have free PPs up there if you check out the QR code, along with a 7% rebate via DRF bets. You got to check it all out. Good luck.